with the Natural Resources Defense Council. Thank you for coming today. We're here today because the New Mexico Environmental Law Center, on behalf of the Eastern Navajo Diné against uranium mining, and from now on I will call them NDOM, as that may be the longest acronym ever, has done something unprecedented, an action that as a domestic environmental lawyer I'm entirely unfamiliar. But they've essentially been driven to this point, and that is last Friday's filing with the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights. My longtime colleague here, Eric Jantz, and my friend Larry King from NDOM will talk about the specifics of why they're here today and the relief they are seeking. But let me just quickly introduce the topic. The story's real and unfortunately all too consistent with anyone familiar with the history of the Navajos, uranium, and the American Southwest. From a national perspective, as a National Green Group lawyer, I can tell you why they're here. Uranium mining, the first step in the nuclear fuel cycle, is not clean, it's not safe, and it's not environmentally benign. Instead, the type of uranium mining that left a legacy of destruction across Navajo country has simply morphed from landscape to the destruction to destruction of the from destruction to the landscape to destruction to the fundamental underpinning of Navajo life, which is water. The federal government has failed the Navajos yet again. In 2005, the Navajo Nation banned uranium mining and processing in Navajo country. They did this not only because of the past legacy of harms that have yet to be cleaned up, they did this also because the federal government has not yet issued a protective set of standards and regulations for a newer type of uranium mining called ISL, or in situ leach. Eric will describe this more and will answer all questions about it. We could spend the morning discussing the failures of the federal regulatory scheme for uranium mining and its Byzantine complexity. Suffice to say that NDOM is here not because they didn't have a case while winding their way through federal courts, but because of deference to agency expertise. This is code for the time when things are complex and when the agency has entirely joined with industry throughout the course of the litigation. It's more than a small underfunded citizens group can overcome in our agency regulatory process. So here they are, coming to a court of last resort. So please let me introduce Larry King, my friend of many years from the lovely, lovely area right outside of Church Rock. And I'll turn it over to Larry.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Larry King, and I'm from Church Rock, New Mexico. It's about 12 miles northeast of Gallup, New Mexico. Gallup's a major town along the I-40 corridor. I lived in Church Rock all of my life, and also I've lived amongst the uranium mining all my life because when I was a youngster, I remember a head frame to the west of where I live, about maybe less than a mile. I remember seeing that. I remember herding sheep around the hills that were left there by the mines, not knowing what they were. I thought they were just your regular hills that come with the landscape, but little did I know that I was playing on waste piles coming out of the shaft. As times went along, there's another mine company that came in, United Nuclear Mine, which was about 3 miles further to the northeast of where I grew up. After I graduated from high school, I went to work at the mines for 8 years as an underground mine surveyor. Also, little did I know that being exposed to uranium, radon, radiation would cause some health effects in the future years, which now I am experiencing some respiratory problems that I deal with every day for about the last 5 years now or so. So I worked at the mine from October of 1975 to April of 1983. And the mine shut down at that time. So that's when I left the company. And I went to other jobs that I worked with since. But as the years went by, it came to my attention that another company had bought the old UNC mine behind my house, about 1,000 feet from to the west of my house, and the only thing that separates the location from my house is a state highway. And that company is HRI, Hydro Resource Incorporated. They wanted to do an ISL mining in the area. Let me back up a little bit here. While working at the mine, it was during July 16, 1979, during the uranium, a major uranium spill ever in U.S. history occurred when I was still working at the mine. It happened in the early hours on a Friday morning. And prior to that, I remember being called out to the site to do some measurements and to do some observation on the huge cracks that were appearing in the tailings pond. After that, I was never called back out there until, and that's when the tailings spill happened in the wee hours of the morning. But prior to that, also, during the several years that the mine was in operation, the mine had to be dewatered to get the workers and the equipments underground to do their job. So there was also untreated water that was being released into the Perco Wash that ran through the Perco Wash all the way down into this town, through the town of Gallup, New Mexico, all the way down to Holbrook, Arizona. Untreated water for more than 20 years. And then comes this uranium, the tailings break in July of 1979. So there was years and years of contaminations being released through the Perco Wash. And along the washes, you have several Navajo families that raise livestock, cattle, sheep, and the Navajo families used the sheep. That was their main source of food in those years, and it still is today. We had, after the uranium spill, there were signs put up not to use the water because the water is dangerous. But animals don't read. You can't tell them not to drink the water. So they kept drinking the water. So that's what occurred that day. But as the years went by, the company, HRI, bought out the old UNC mine, which was behind my house, and they wanted to set up an ISL mining. And after meeting up with and joining with NDOM, Eastern Navajo Diné against uranium mining, I found out what kind of method is used to extract the mine. And right away, I knew it was not good. It is bad. Deliberately contaminating the aquifer did not sit well with me. And to this day, I am still not I'm still not convinced this is a safe method, and I will never be convinced this is a safe method. The HRI has two areas that they have a license to mine. The town of Crown Point, New Mexico, which is about maybe 45 miles to the northeast of where I live. And Church Rock is the other location, which is right behind my house. So the license is for both sites together. Crown Point will have the ISL mining done right in the town's sole drinking aquifer for more than 15,000 people. And NRC is well aware that there has never been no ISL mining ever done in a community sole drinking aquifer. That is our main concern. In the Southwest, when the water is precious, right now we've got several days that we have not seen a raindrop in our area. So we need to preserve every drop of water in our area, and also to make sure that our future generation has something to use and for them to benefit from. And we've exhausted all our efforts to try to stop this mine from moving in because of the contamination, the devastation that they will do to the community and its water and its air and its land. With several abandoned mines in the whole Navajo Nation, we need, the legacies have to be addressed. There's hundreds of abandoned mines on the Navajo Nations that are still out there, never remediated. Those need to be addressed. And with the Navajo Nation, with the prior Navajo Nation members that had worked in the mines before that are still suffering from working in the mines in the prior years, we need to have those the communities address their health issues. And so for that reason, that's why we are here. We've got no other choice but to go to the Inter-American Human Rights Commission, and our intention is to see what they can do for us, maybe put a stop to this company that has a license to poison the community's sole drinking aquifer of Crown Point. That is not right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry. Good morning, everybody. I'm Eric Jantz, staff attorney with the New Mexico Environmental Law Center. I appreciate Jeff's introduction and Mr. King's background information on this petition. As Mr. King alluded to, as Larry alluded to, this is a struggle. This petition has been decades, really, in the making. The people of the Navajo Nation have struggled with the uranium mining and milling issue for decades. 60 years of contamination that the U.S. government has failed to address in any sort of meaningful way. For the folks at NDOWM, this petition has been 17 years in the making. They were involved with the NRC litigation back in '94. They became involved with that administrative process. The people of Church Rock and Crown Point have waited years for justice. They haven't found it with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. We hope we'll get it with the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights. This petition is both historic and important. It's historic because this is the first time that a community has brought the international spotlight to bear on the Nuclear Regulatory Commission and its regulatory practices. The NRC isn't going to be able to operate in the shadows anymore. The international community and the nation is going to see now how the NRC treats low-income, minority, and indigenous communities. They'll see that the NRC has not left its attitude of promoting nuclear power at any cost behind. And as Larry said, this is an important petition because once the air, water, and land in the communities of Crown Point and Church Rock are contaminated, the damage can't be undone. The NRC has not and will not now provide protection to the people in those communities. The U.S. courts are constrained, as Jeff alluded to, by the doctrine of agency deference. So international and public pressure is the only way to keep these communities safe. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the specifics of the petition. Under the American Declaration of the Rights and Duties of Man, the United States has several international obligations to protect the human rights of its citizens. We are alleging that because the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, an agency of the United States, has licensed a uranium mining operation that it knows will contaminate the sole source drinking water aquifers in Crown Point and Church Rock, that the United States has breached its obligations to protect the life and health of those community members. There's never been an instance in the United States where an ISL mine has been able to restore groundwater to pre-mining conditions. It doesn't happen. Even assuming it's technologically feasible, which is not entirely clear, it's certainly not economically viable for the uranium mining companies. So in the case of Crown Point and Church Rock, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission worked under a false assumption, that contrary to the evidence before it, that the groundwater quality in both these aquifers was poor. Now you got to remember that in Crown Point, the community water supply is currently already being drawn from this very same aquifer. People are already drinking out of it. So it can hardly be said to be poor. Yet this is the assumption that the Nuclear Regulatory Commission was working under. The second important aspect of the petition is that the American Declaration also guarantees cultural and religious rights. And in the case here, air, land, and water are culturally important, if not central to the Navajo religious and cultural framework and norms. As a member of the Organization of American States and a signatory to the American Declaration, the United States and its agencies is committed to protect those rights. In this case, the NRC has failed to do that, and the U.S. has failed to do that. So in sum, it's time for the U.S. to catch up with the international community. The U.S. Holds itself up internationally as a beacon of human rights protection. Let's see if we can start at home. Thank you, and both Larry and I are happy to answer whatever questions folks might have. Sure.
Any questions?
So, does the
Oh, can you please announce yourself and where you're from?
my name is Matt Field, and I'm with Inside Washington Publishers.
Mhm.
Does HRI have all of the necessary permits to go ahead and do this on its schedule?
So the its NRC permit is granted for 4 sites, 2 in Crown Point and 2 in Church Rock, right? It has all the permits it needs for the Church Rock Section 8 site. And if you, there's this map up here where you can see, you know, the schematics of where things are in Church Rock. So once it's a Section 8 aquifer exemption and underground injection control permit, which is granted by the state of New Mexico, is under review for renewal. But that's really a pro forma process. I'm unaware of any situation where a aquifer exemption, temporary aquifer designation, has been rescinded. And they originally got theirs back in 1988. Now, it's interesting that you bring this up because through a Freedom of Information Act request to the Environmental Protection Agency, we found that back in '93, the company was denied a aquifer exemption for its Crown Point well field. And it never disclosed that during the NRC litigation. So it doesn't look like they'll be able to mine there. That said, One of their other site in Crown Point is very near the groundwater source where the town gets its drinking water, and they need only get one more permit for that. So they're ready to go at Section 8. They still need one more permit for their remaining sites.
So about 3 sites in total that they'll be able to mine?
3 sites in total they should be able to mine, yeah.
And these were aquifer exemptions originally granted in 1988.
That's
So
correct.
Stale.
And you can actually, for everybody here who's interested, you can visit our website, www.nmelc.org, and that'll give you an entire history of the case along with relevant documents.
Thanks. Where are you from?
I'm Tom Hamburger with the LA Times. Who owns the land on which the proposed mines would be drilled?
Hi, Tom. It depends on which site you're talking about. This is in the checkerboard area of northwestern New Mexico, and the legal status of lands in this area is convoluted at best. If one were to be charitable, one would say they were. It's very confusing. So, one of the mine sites, Section 8, the first mine site that's to be mined, is private land. It's surrounded by reservation and U.S. public lands that are being used by the Navajo ranchers. Section 17, where Mr. King lives, is reservation land. And it's unclear whether HRI will ever be able to mine that because of the 2005 Diné Natural Resources Protection Act that the Navajo Nation passed, banning uranium mining and milling. Now, that said, the U.S. has through the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, has made very clear that it's not interested in honoring that law. The mine processing site, the central processing plant in Crown Point, private land. The Unit 1 wellfield site is Navajo allotted land.
And because, if I can just follow up on the Navajo allotted land, does the Nuclear Regulatory Commission have jurisdiction over permitting? Is there not some Interior Department permitting that's also required?
Actually, the BIA doesn't permit as such. It's responsible for the leases. And the BIA was actually a co-agency on the final environmental impact statement that the NRC, a cooperating agency with the NRC on the environmental impact statement back in '97. Right. There was a question about allotted land. What that is that tribal trust land is land that's held in trust by the federal government on behalf of the Indian tribe. Allotted land is land that's held in trust by the federal government for individual Indians, in this case, individual Navajo families.
So regarding Section 17, where the Navajo law applies on to about uranium mining, there are 2 sites on Section 17.
One site on Section 17, one on Section 8.
Okay, one on Section 17, one on Section 8. And that site on Section 17 is in question. It's a question whether HRI will ever be able to mine there.
That's our hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's our hope, although the track record for the United States respecting the sovereign rights of tribes is, not so good.
Is there some sort of litigation going on around that site?
Not yet. We expect that there will be.
Okay. On the part brought by HRI?
Yes, we expect that HRI is going to challenge the tribe's authority to even pass this uranium mining ban.
And so they have, okay. And they have the permit for that site?
They sure do.
They have the NRC permit and their other permits under review through the New Mexico Environmental Department?
Not for Section 17, just for Section 8.
Just for Section 8?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so then this Navajo law, it does not apply on the other?
Doesn't apply on Section 8. The 10th Circuit decided that last summer. Yeah.
And those are 3 wells, proposed mines there, right, on Section 8?
Well, it's a well field consisting of hundreds of wells.
Okay.
Yeah, it's something like 400 wells, I think.
So 1 well field on Section 8,
Yeah.
and then 3 well fields
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, and so all three of those are kind of in limbo right now on Section 17 because of this Navajo law.
Right.
Okay.
Potentially, yes. Yeah. Could you say?
My name's Nancy Roth.
Hi.
I'm an independent journalist here in Washington,
Mhm.
D.C. I wonder if you would help me understand a couple of things. First of all, I read back in preparation for this, and I thought the original position of the Navajo was a moratorium until the polluted lands, the
Mhm.
Superfund sites, et cetera, were cleaned up. And so I wonder about the change now. It seems like a change. Can you help me understand?
Right. Yeah. There's some. I think there was some confusion on the part of Navajo officials who spoke about this. The actual Navajo law, the DNRPA, is very unequivocal about it being a ban. So it's not a moratorium until things get cleaned up. It is in fact a ban until the Navajo Nation rescinds this 2005 law.
Okay, so some officials who talked about it in public had the wrong impression.
They may have had the wrong impression. Sometimes, sometimes officials don't necessarily understand the laws that they've passed.
And then, may I ask a follow-up, please?
Sure, but let me just say one thing in clarification. Back in '92, there was an executive order by President Peterson Zaw, that did put a moratorium on uranium mining. So they may have been referring to that rather than the 2005 Tribal Council resolution. So there may have been some confusion there.
Okay. Then the second question I have is, do you have any indication of the actual radon content of the water at the mine site? Because my understanding is they cannot sink a well anywhere where people can drink the water. So I have to.
Right, sure. And there's an artifice that the industry and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission uses in order to give the impression of bad quality groundwater. What they'll do is in the situation where there's a uranium ore body within an aquifer, and this happens all over the West, is that it's deposited in these long, thin strips. And the groundwater within those discrete, long, thin strips is poor. If you sink a well in the middle of one of those uranium ore bodies, you're going to get bad water. It's undrinkable water. Thing is, under its natural conditions, it doesn't go anywhere. So you can have a drinking water well, 50 feet away that's a very good quality drinking water. And that's exactly what's going on in Crown Point.
Do you have a number, though? Because the data really helps.
Sure, in the environmental impact statement, there are some data. Now, it's important to know that HRI hasn't, and the NRC hasn't required them to do so, make a comprehensive picture of the pre-mining groundwater conditions. They only have to do that right before they start mining. Again, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is working under the assumption that the average groundwater quality over a large mine area is very poor. So, for example, in Crown Point, the ore body radon and radium concentrations exceed EPA maximum contamination levels. But 50 feet away within the mine site, you can have, and there is, drinking water quality groundwater. So it is groundwater that can be can be consumed without treatment.
I'd like to add into this too. This is a national issue at ISL mine sites. The controversy over setting background conditions is only growing more severe as new mines get sited. Currently in Texas at the Goliad mine site, currently in Texas at the Goliad mine site, Goliad County is actually challenging the permitting of a mine that Texas has permitted, and that now is winding its way through the Texas procedure. And the county has, with the assistance of some superb experts